You know, I may not have my mental faculties all in order, but you know what I do have? I have International Delight Pumpkin Spice Coffee Creamer, and that's almost just as good. Hi friends. In T-minus about 12 hours, we are leaving here to get on a plane for 6 a.m. on an airline that charges you for water, so you can kind of surmise how well taken care of we're going to be on that one. And we're flying across the country for 10 days, and it's going to be great. We're going to have a really good time, and it's going to be the beginning of October, which is my favorite time of year. But first, before that happens, I foolishly decided, hey, you know what I should do right before we leave is film for my channel. Thank you all so much for the love and attention that you gave to the last video on the channel. If you haven't seen it yet, I will link it up here. It was a continuation of the Palette Potential series that is, you know, now gone on for 4 months. We will pick it back up. Today we are going to do something slightly different because I got something really exciting in the mail, which of course I want to share with all of you because it is the perfect palette to herald in spooky season, which if you haven't really surmised from your external cues is my favorite time of year. So Unearthly Cosmetics, being the absolute angels that they are, kindly sent something my way, which honestly they really don't have to at this point. I understand how infrequent my content is, but they really came through with this one, and I just wanted to share it with you all. I got the new Gargoyle palette in the mail. Oh my god, it is a stunner. I can't wait to show it to you. But also, I wanted to stay true to what I offered in my last video, that even though I filmed that way back in May, can you believe it? It is September 29th as I'm filming this today. And I had this idea because I often get questions here and there about what I do for a living, my channel, makeup. The more I share about my professional and personal life, it's natural that people who watch me are curious about all of that. So I figured it would be a great idea to just open the floor to some Q&A, and I would sit here and chat while doing my makeup. Groundbreaking. You know, the last Q&A I did on my channel was like, what, probably 4 or 5 years ago at this point. And yes, I will be going through the entire routine from primer to lashes. We're filming the whole shebang today. So grab your favorite basic bitch fall beverage, grab a snack, grab a blanket. You know, one of those throw blankets that you get from Indigo as like a gift. Get snuggled up in the couch. Let's answer some of your questions while playing with the new Unearthly Cosmetics Gargoyle palette. And let's get spooky. Sorry, I mean, let's get started. So I have a bunch of really cute questions from all of y'all. I'm always just so floored by how kind and thoughtful my audience is. Y'all are the best. Just want to say that. Shout out to you guys. Let me just disrobe. A lot of this stuff I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm gonna pack it, which I hate doing. I hate traveling with makeup. You want to be conservative with how much you bring because space is at a premium. So I always try to be really pragmatic about packing makeup, but I end up usually bringing something that I end up never even opening. You know, like that single shadow, you're like, I'm absolutely going to use that. When in reality, it's probably just taking up space. But I've definitely dialed down my base routine quite a bit. And today I think I'm going to do pretty much what I've been doing for the last few months while I haven't been working. It's actually the same base routine that I ended up using for a photo shoot that I did with Christine Kofsky not too long ago. But the base routine I ended up doing for the shoot looked really good on camera. I don't say that very lightly because my skin historically is notoriously difficult. I don't know if you noticed, but between the last time I filmed and now, famous last words, but my skin is doing really well. If you guys want a skincare routine, let me know. Leave that in the comments below. Plot twist, the base routine doesn't involve foundation. I know, revolutionary. Ever since Loreal sent me a care package full of their like bestsellers, which by the way, thank you Loreal, that's so freaking cool. This was included in the package. It's the Lumi Glotion. Please change the name. I know it was probably focus tested within an inch of its life, but I hate saying the words. The word combination makes me want to dry heave. It's so gross. Just please change the name. Glotion? However, it's quickly becoming a base staple of mine. Combined with these bad boys, I'm still using them and I still love them. This is the Glow Recipe Watermelon Glow Niacinimide Hue Drops. Again, another terrible name. Why can't you guys just name your products something concise and something that doesn't give me the ick? We're gonna take a little drop of this, which looks really really scary when you first pump it out. Please do not be alarmed. And a squeeze of that. I just literally just rub my hands together and we just slap it on. If you got a décolletage out, just go ahead and just take it down there. And so don't be alarmed, the combo does have quite a lot of pearlescence, but good grief, does it not just completely even out my skin tone? I think there's just enough pigmented ingredients in this product to create some sort of evened out base, but I definitely would not call it a foundation. There is zero coverage. And you could probably just wear this and leave the house, honestly. All right, now that I have that first step out of the way, let's answer a question. I got some really lovely questions from all of you, and I got several from Leanne, who is such an amazing supporter of mine. Like, she really came through and she was like, oh, you want questions? So just think of this as the Leanne portion of the video. And the first question was actually the catalyst for this video idea. This is originally just a comment under one of my posts. Back in May, Leanne asked me, when you are studying a role, how do you go about selecting the makeup kit you will take to work? You see why I wanted to save this for an on-camera discussion. It's such a good question because, as we are going to demonstrate right now, my base routine for when I'm filming for YouTube or when I'm just going about my day or going to an event is slowly becoming more and more disparate from what I do for stage. A few years ago, I would have told you that I wear a lot more makeup. It's funny, the older I get, the less I want to put on my skin. I mean, like, I work really hard to have really nice skin. Like, it's something I actively pursue. So when I get to a place where I'm really proud of what it looks like and how it's behaving, I don't really want to cover that up. But with stage, it's a little bit different. We're going with Flower Beauty Light Illusion Concealer. I've been using the e.l.f. recently because it's a little brighter, it's a little warmer, but the Gargoyle palette is quite spoopy, so I figured something a little cool toned would fit the bill. Even now I'm using a little bit more than I would normally in my day-to-day, but we're on camera. We're here for the full glam fantasy, so I know it seems crazy, but nowadays I literally just take my fingers and I try and absorb and blend out the product as much as humanly possible. Like, I don't want a layer of concealer collecting in the creases under my eyes. Now with stage, it's very different because you're under a lot of really bright light. And also you're very far away from the audience. And this is an expression that I use all the time, but you kind of have to paint for the back row. Like, that person paid good money to see you, even though they're like up in the nosebleeds. And even if I'm far away, I want them to be able to see the expressions on my face. Not only do I want to be expressive enough for people in the balcony, but I also really want to transform myself, especially for a role that is kind of counter to how I present myself on a daily basis. We talked a little bit about this in a video back when I was rehearsing for Guys and Dolls. By the way, I can't believe that has come and gone so quickly already. I really like to put a lot of thought into the makeup that I'm going to be wearing, especially when it comes to color palette. I'll look at my wig color. What are the color palettes that my wardrobe is reflecting? In the case of Guys and Dolls, I actually did a lipstick change between Act 1 and Act 2 because Act 1 I was wearing a lot of reds and Act 2 I was wearing a lot of pinks and purples. Seems like a small detail that no one's going to notice, but it's just a way to honor the design of the entire piece and keeping everything really cohesive. And my show kit does change drastically from show to show. For Little Shop, it was a lot of neutrals, mauves, rose tones. Adelaide's color palette was really carefully curated, especially when it comes to the tonal qualities of each eyeshadow tone, blush tone. I knew I wanted her look to be pink, but I also wanted to make sure that it was pink in the right way, like not warm, peachy, coral pink or dusty, rosy, neutral pink. I wanted her to be cool toned, bright, poppy pink. And I filmed the entire routine for Adelaide and put it in an Instagram reel, so definitely go look at that for reference. It's probably way too much forethought, but in the end I was really happy with how her makeup scheme turned out. And even though it was detailed, I could really execute it in a perfunctory way. You know how with some makeup it's just like so detailed, you have to be incredibly focused to execute it? There needs to be consistency and efficiency with how you do your makeup for stage. Long story short, you want makeup that will reach the back of the house, deeper contrast between dark and light, bigger shapes on the eyes, especially the places where you express emotion, eyes, lips, eyebrows. Also, it has to be basically sweat proof. That's the other thing. If you're in a show that you're dancing a lot and you're under these hot lights and you're probably wearing layers of undergarments to keep all of your lumps and bumps in some sort of fashionable silhouette, you're gonna get hot. It's just unavoidable. There's no way you can avoid sweating on stage. So also you have to make sure that things just don't move, which is insane. mean? So basically you just have to really rely on a really good setting powder and a really good setting spray. Not only did I douse myself with a layer of e.l.f. Stay All Day, but I also finished off everything at the end with the On Till Dawn. It really seals it in. Like, you are not going anywhere. Gosh, I don't know if that answered that question. Truly, I knew going into this that I probably couldn't be trusted to give any sort of straightforward answer to any of these questions today. That's just how it be in my brain these days. A lot of, where was I? What was I saying? Who are you? Anyone else feeling that? No, just me? Okay. Also, the nice thing about using less products, you can sit here in your base products without setting them, and they kind of don't go anywhere. I pulled out an oldie but a goodie. I don't know if it's still good anymore. Noctex Cosmetics. This is their Air Blush in the shade Requiem. A bit of a rusty tone, but I feel like if we blend that with a little bit of Danessa Myricks, possibly a little bit of Dancing Queen, something like that. Moving on with some more questions from Leanne. Do you have any family that sing? That's such a cute question. Depends on your definition of singing, I guess, and also who's answering the question. So I have no doubt that a lot of my natural ability comes from my mom's side of the family, at least when it comes to singing. Like, my dad's side of the family are artists for the most part, so a lot of my artistic ability definitely probably comes from that gene pool. Case in point, pretty much every piece of art you see behind me. However, I think it'd be generous to say that my dad can more or less carry a tune in a bucket. Dad, please don't be offended. I love you. Like, I would trust my dad to sing Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, but my mom is the one who I think, if given the resources and the encouragement, probably could have gone on to be involved in the performing arts in some way. So my mom would sing when she was in the kitchen, you know, she's cooking something for dinner because she was expected to always have dinner on the table, not to mention keeping the entire house run like a tight ship and having an exquisite garden. But she loves singing along to the radio, she loves singing along to music, she just loves music in general. We always had music in the house. Her favorites to sing along to are Patsy Cline, Katie Lang. She loves a little Annie Lennox in there as well. Loves the hip. Tragically hip? Oh, don't even talk to her about the hip. As she's gotten older, she's done it less and less. I think she's very self-conscious about how she sounds, which is absurd because she has a beautiful voice. I can't remember what occasion it was exactly, but we were just talking about this the other day. My mom actually got gifted a session at a recording studio. She ended up going in there and recording a little a cappella version, I think, of Walkin' After Midnight. She ended up one night sitting me in front of the tape player and playing this for me, just like the game that we played when I was a kid, you know, being sat in front of the tape player and someone asking me who was singing this song, and then my 3-year-old self would say Bob Dylan or Van Morrison. It was always Van Morrison or Bob Dylan. And I was listening and she was like, do you know who that is? I think I said something like Patsy Cline. She was like, no, it's me. And I was like maybe 9 at the time. I couldn't comprehend that that was my mom's voice coming through the speakers like a recording artist, like a singer. And I was just like so floored. My mom sounded great on mic. Like, she just like, she had this great tone. I thought it was awesome that she was like able to just like muster up the courage to literally sing in a recording studio in front of recording professionals. Like, how awesome is that? Oh my God. Anyway, so long anecdote, short answer. Yes, my mom sings and she sings very well. Of course, some of the first songs that I started to sing when I was growing up was Patsy Cline. I used to go into like high school singing competitions doing like Back in Baby's Arms. Everyone else is doing like, I don't know, something current like Christina Aguilera. I think I got cut in the first round of Garibaldi Idol. Also, sidebar, definitely auditioned twice for Canadian Idol, 2 years in a row. Got cut before I even made it to the final round of auditions. Lol. Look at me now, talking to the 500 people who watch my videos on the internet. Barely lacking the mental strength to maintain a hobby that I enjoy doing in the 3 months I have off between gigs. In other words, thriving. Oh God, it's so blown out on camera, but I was really curious about the new press powder from Tower 28, the GetSet in Palisades Pink. I'm a sucker for a pink powder, so. And you know what? It's fine. I don't hate it. It's actually quite translucent. Like, it doesn't have a lot of pigment to it. You could use it quite liberally, kind of like a loose setting powder. It definitely doesn't have the same amount of pigment as like your L'Oreal or your Maybelline pressed powders. But this does do a terrific job of setting your face when you don't have a loose setting powder on hand. Also, for the price, the component doesn't even have a mirror in it. Tower 28, come on, get it together. You charge too much for your products to not have a mirror in your component. A compact, by design, by definition, should have a mirror in it because this is the thing you're going to be carrying around with you in your purse to do touch-ups. Correct me if I'm wrong. Add a sponge and a mirror. Thank you. Next question. Took me half an hour to answer 2 of them. What was your first theatrical performance? This is an easy question. First professional theatrical performance. Yes, I'm going to put a caveat on that because yes, I did dance recitals growing up from like age 5 to 17. I was up there in a paper mache chicken costume doing There Ain't Nobody Here But Us Chickens when I was like 5. Does that constitute a theatrical performance? Depends on who you ask. First professional theatrical performance was the Vancouver Opera Children's Chorus when I was 12 years old. I was still in elementary school for the opera Carmen. This was actually around the same time that my mom discovered I could sing at all. Because as a kid, I was super shy about singing at home in front of my parents. Even though I loved dance class and I begged to be in dance class, I hated performing for my folks, which seems contradictory, but there is a huge difference between performing for 500 faceless people that you can't even see and performing 5 feet away from your mom and dad who are asking you to sing a song for their friends after dinner. Proximity is key. Not that they were very like demanding of me. Sometimes my mom would just like beg. She would just be like, please, can you just sing us a little song, please? Like she was just being a really proud mom, and I honestly do not hold that against her. But the thought of just standing in front of a room full of faces that I can distinctly make out, and also the psychological pressure of seeing my mom get really emotional while I was singing at that age, just like, no, we're not even gonna go there. So I just abjectly refused to sing for my mom. And so she went for years thinking that I couldn't. So in my dance studio, we had a choir class and a singing teacher would come in and have us all just sing in a group. It was really casual, but I must have stood out somehow among the pack because Gail, my first singing teacher, was the person who pushed my mother to submit me for the Vancouver Opera Children's Chorus in the first place. Something we'd historically never done. I think it just seemed really out of left field for my mom and she kind of just laughed at her. This story is part of the Maddie lore, but Gail just looked at her and said, I'm not joking. My mom just kind of shrugged and went, all right. So we drive all the way out there. I'm wearing a silly little hat and I ended up singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Clearly I did something right because weeks later I am coming home from school. I walk in through the door and in the kitchen, my mom's standing there with a balloon and a stuffed animal. And the balloon says congratulations on it. And my brain was playing catch up. So I just stood there for about 2 seconds trying to figure out what this all meant. And then it clicked and I went, oh my God, no way. And my mom was just like beside herself waiting for me to figure it out. She was just like jumping up and down. I just don't think she realized that that was something that I was even capable of pursuing. And so we spent the next several months co-carpooling with another mom whose daughter also was in the children's chorus. I'm not going to get into it, but the other mom actually is artistic director of a theater company in the city. So I actually ended up reconnecting with her later on in my adult life. She was the director of Anything Goes, which was like a really pivotal moment in my musical theater career. We didn't know that at the time. We would trade off driving each other out to Vancouver and back at this time. Huge commitment, especially for a child. Mom and me diligently just made it work. It was the first time I ever really made that biggest sacrifice. I remember school was harder, dance classes were harder, but because I really wanted it and because I really loved it so much, I just made it work. It was the first time I ever really like pushed myself to do something challenging, and it really paid off. I had a great time. I remember really enjoying the process of not only performing a couple numbers, you know, marching around, dirt on my face. This is the first time someone put eyebrows on me. It was the first time someone did my makeup for me, did my hair for me, and like I wore a costume and it all felt so grand and so big. So I do fear that that really was the catalyst, the harbinger of things to come. I caught the bug. I truly did. Standing on the Queen Elizabeth stage, singing, dancing, getting paid to do it. How do you not? It's intoxicating. For a kid who felt misunderstood through most of their elementary school life, meeting and getting to spend time with like-minded children, that is equally as intoxicating. Who wouldn't want to chase acceptance for the rest of their life after tasting it for the first time? That was another long, lengthy, drawn-out answer. I got paid like a couple $100. Wasn't even that much. But to a 12-year-old? Come on. Like what? $200 just to sing and dance in French? Sign me up. Oh shit, I should not have done that. Oh no, 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 no. Oh, motherfucker. I don't know what I'm doing right now, but I'm actually losing my goddamn mind. It's 4:20. Blaze it. And we haven't even gotten to eyeshadow. Maddie, what are you doing? All right, well. Where were we? Oh, that's right. I took my entire face off and started from scratch. Wasn't very live, laugh, love of me, but honestly, I think it looks better. It is now 5:33 p.m. I've been doing this since 2:30 and it's going well. There is such a cognitive dissonance between how I look at my face while I'm doing my makeup just for myself, straight on in a mirror in full light, versus the lighting that I try to achieve in the studio and the way I can't have a mirror right in front of me because it blocks the camera. All of that combined kind of just makes for a really disorienting makeup application. So often when I leave my studio and go look at myself in a different mirror, everything just looks a bit wackadoo. So I just took a breath, washed my face, really simplified it, and I think I like it a little bit better. Now that I'm caught up, I'm just going to do what I was going to do before I ruined it and just add a pop of highlight. I've really been dipping back into the Hourglass Ambient Light Edit Ghost palette, which they don't even make anymore, I'm fairly certain. This is a limited edition thing even when it was first launched. So back to ones, and I chucked on some eyebrows. This is about all the base I want to do today because honestly, it is getting late and I still need to pack because we have to leave the house at 3 in the morning to get on a 6 a.m. flight. So I'm going to zoom us in and we're going to continue on with some eyeshadow, finally unbox this beast, and we're going to answer some more questions.
A few moments later.
Just kidding. Apparently, never mind zooming in because my lens has completely given up the ghost. Usually it'll rack focus, and yeah, autofocus is on both the lens and also in the settings. I've cleaned the sensors, so that's fun. If anyone knows anything about DSLR cameras from 2018, please tell me why this is happening. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing with my eyeshadow from here. To finish off the Leanne round of questions, she asks, who is your favorite tattoo artist? Now, that is a tough question. I'm gonna try and keep it concise. I did send Leanne a bunch of artists that I love, and I can only speak on the artists that I've worked with. And of course, these are all local tattoo artists that live and work in the Lower Mainland. I've only had one tattoo away from home, and that was in New Orleans, which I highly recommend Feline. If you're ever in New Orleans and you want to get a tattoo, definitely hit her up. I can definitely rattle off a few that I love, that I'm obsessed with. The person that did my half sleeve is Alexis Thompson. Definitely one of the biggest pieces that I have on my body to date. You know the illustrations you'll see in like botanical textbooks? Alexis Thompson is very that. Also love Birdie. They work out of Port Moody. Birdie has an amazing personality, is super fun, super positive. Also have a real soft spot for salve. They work out of Abbotsford, which if you don't know is a bit of a hike from Vancouver proper. They now have their own tattoo studio called Remedy, if I'm remembering correctly. I think as far as ratio goes, Sav's done the majority of my really nerdy tattoos. Anything anime or video game related. Jesse Williams did my back piece. He's pretty well known, sometimes hard to get into, but worth the wait. Super meticulous artist, really good artist for animals. Also, if you're in the Okanagan, I'm pretty sure Owen Frick works out of the Okanagan now. Owen is responsible for my very first tattoo. Owen took this idea that I had for a tattoo in a walk-in appointment, which is crazy that it was so successful because I made that decision on such a whim. Trish B, love Trish B. Trish did the second tattoo I ever got. Also, Paisley is a huge nerd, super cool artist, does a lot of racy tattoos, if you know what I'm saying. That was a very brief and abridged tattoo tour, but I can actually go more in depth and do a dedicated video on a tattoo tour if that is something that anyone here is interested in. But I recommend any and all of those artists. If you are in the Lower Mainland, I highly recommend checking any of them out. And that brings us to the end of the Leanne portion of the Q&A. Thank you, Leanne, for sending in such thoughtful questions. And now let's move on with the rest of the questions. But first, let's take a break and unbox the Gargoyle palette because I'm just dying to take a look at this one. Oh, it is a cool toned lover's dream in here. As you know, I love Unearthly Cosmetics. I'm just the biggest fan, and I'm just so honored to be even on their PR list to begin with. But when they send me something real special like this, it's just like, I'm just so grateful. Oh my god. This top one, holy crap. There's also some gorgeous cool tone neutrals in here, like Gothic Grace. We love a gray on this channel. So thank you so much to Unearthly for gifting this to me. That is incredibly generous, and I really appreciate it. If you don't know, I do have an affiliated discount code with Unearthly Cosmetics. You can use the code Madelaide at checkout for a little money off. And of course, that means I do get a kickback. So So if you do use it, thank you. I very much appreciate it. I really feel for indie makeup brands right now. They're all probably just hanging on by a thread. So the next time you're shopping for a product, if you have the funds, support an indie brand today. That's my PSA. While I'm figuring out what the heck to put on my eyeballs, my very good friend Ryan sent me a really thought-provoking question. Of course he would hit me with heavy stuff. He wouldn't make this easy for me. Ryan says, I'm curious if you'd want to dive into what you do to keep your sanity during the off times, the times you don't book, the off seasons, etc. What do you do to keep your head on straight? It's as if he can read my mind. I swear to God, this is the prevailing thought that is running through the hamster wheel of my brain at any given time. Truth be told, being incredibly transparent right now, I'm struggling with keeping my head on straight. Right now, staying sane during the off time has been psychologically extremely difficult. It has been a roller coaster. Work has not been consistent the way that I was hoping it would be. So I've been left 3 months at a time with no job. And the reason I don't go back to getting a regular job is because I knew that 3 months down the line, I had something to go back to. I had a contract that would usurp all of my time. And I had a better handle on this pre-pandemic, slowly working my way back into the theater community while balancing a part-time job. And since the pandemic, I have had far less mental and physical energy to be able to balance theater voiceover with a part-time job schedule. In recent years, that has gotten harder and harder to balance. I have way more anxiety, which is saying something because I operated in constant fight or flight mode even before the pandemic, but now it's just been exacerbated. My fear of disappointing people, letting people down has increased tenfold. Even asking for grace and leeway when something really exciting would come up and I wanted to take a shift off. As much as my coworkers and my boss really wanted to support me to be able to do that, I always felt really anxious and stressed out asking for that grace and leeway because I knew they were already struggling with coverage as it was. Consequently, the guilt I would feel even asking for that sent me into several spirals. All of that scrambling around in my brain while trying to pursue a career in what I wanted to do just created a horrible mental environment for myself. And I've talked a lot about this in a previous video, so I'm trying not to reiterate myself too much. I thought eliminating the stress of a part-time job, all the anxiety and guilt and fear that went with trying to maintain that relationship, I thought that would kind of allow me to focus, not worry about upsetting people in pursuit of my dreams. While it did do that, it has now created a whole slew of other anxieties and fears. Maybe this was my folly, thinking that I had enough talent that I could make it, as it were, at least book enough between certain projects that I would be able to earn a living and be able to contribute. My thought was that I would do theater contracts, hopefully at least 2 a year. And in the interim, commercial voiceover would be my supplementary income. Terrific idea in theory. But it turns out breaking into commercial VO isn't as smooth a journey as I would have liked it to be. There was a 9-month period where I did not book. So that will give you an indication of how often I'm able to use that as a secondary source of income. I thought I was going to be a little more successful than that. Hubris, am I right? I still really want commercial voiceover to be how I pay the bills. And some people do and some people can. And I was like, well, if they can, then why can't I? So that was my plan for waiting out those periods of time where I'm not working in theater. And some people are really good at balancing things and making their schedules work for them. Daniel being one of them. He has enough mental energy to work full time as a massage therapist, send in audition tapes constantly, record audiobooks. He somehow manages to balance all of those things. Mind you, he does work for himself. He makes his own schedule, and I think that makes a huge difference. If you want to be in the performing arts, the best thing you could do for yourself is set yourself up to be able to work elsewhere, but on your own schedule. If you're smart enough to be able to work in those kinds of fields, you're golden, baby. Literally, someone asked me the other day, like, why don't you just become a massage therapist? And I was like, ha ha ha. Even Daniel was like, I do not think she has the right mind for the sciences, which I unfortunately had to agree with. When it comes to academia, big dum-dum. In short, too late. I don't navigate it very well. Don't navigate the downtime well at all. This was supposed to be my downtime project. fact. Look how well that turned out. 3 months of complete and utter avoidance. Truth be told, I am working on 2 separate projects right now. Like, I really wanted to explore singing more, not just singing in musicals and singing for theater, but singing just as a standalone thing, just singing for the sake of singing. I've always wanted to do it and just never really felt like I could. I don't really know why. I think because of the amount of dedication it requires to become an artist. That would be alternate timeline Maddie for sure. Definitely would have pursued a career in music. But it just so happened that a couple of projects fell into my lap. People reach out to me and asked if I wanted to be a part of these things. So that has taken up a lot of my mental space for sure. For those of you who are interested, I am going to be singing in a burlesque variety show called Morticia's Ball. It'll be October 18th and 19th at the Culch. And the second thing I'm going to be performing in October, which is taking up the majority of my brain space at the moment, is a concert of Rocky Horror Picture Show. It'll be at the Fox Cabaret, October 26th. There will also be a pre-show with a spooky set list. Sitting here idling because I really don't know what to go in with next. Stick to my guns, let's go in with Sinister Figure. And when I agreed to sign on for these gigs, I truly wasn't thinking of just how much work it was going to be to hold all of this music in my brain. It's also a lot of stuff on my own time. Sure, you're getting paid to do the gig, you're getting paid for the evening, but what you're not getting paid for is all of the learning you have to do. Oh my god, these are blending so beautifully together. And to go back to Ryan's question, I was saying yes to these projects because I thought, hey, I've got nothing else going on. I love spooky season. 2 spooky gigs where I get to sing a bunch, make a little money while doing it. I was like, oh, that's the answer to all my problems. But of course, that also has its drawbacks. It's a lot of self-motivated work. If you haven't picked up on it already, it's not my strong suit. So even though I was lamenting not having work and the consequences of not going back to a part-time job and wanting something to work on, now that I had it, suddenly I was freaking out and completely afraid that I was not capable of learning all of this stuff in time. I'm still worried about it. It really is a catch-22. And for the last year, I have felt stuck between a rock and a hard place with navigating all of that. My friend said this to me the other day. I can't even remember who said it, but someone told me, like, sounds like you're just really burnt out still. And to be honest, everyone, I could not tell you what I was burnt out from. Could have been the 7 months of contracts back to back. Could have been working 6 days a week in retail for 2 years after being in lockdown and the whiplash from that. Could be any number of things. Could be so many things. I could be burnt out from literally just how life is right now. I think life is just burning me out. And that makes it really, really difficult to be productive between contracts. If this is how I am managing after a show closes with 3 whole months to do whatever I wanted, and most days all I could muster was showering and forcing myself to go for a walk, then I guess I'm not handling it well. Or more accurately, I'm not handling it with the grace I should be giving myself. I should be allowed to rest. Everyone says you're allowed to rest, you're allowed to take breaks, take all the time you need. But then there's that little voice in the back of your head. Sometimes it's a really big, loud voice that says, like,
you only get one life and you could die tomorrow. Is this really how you want to spend your time?
The existentialism is really getting to me, guys. At the very least, I could be filming consistently. I had 3 months to do it. I could have done it. I could have filmed 3 days a week if I really had the willpower. But I didn't. It was all I could do to get off the couch. There's a lot of shame that comes with admitting that. There's a lot of shame I'm feeling right now telling you that. But I never want to lie to people. I never want to not be honest, because there should not be any shame in that. And yet here I am feeling waves of shame crashing over me. But here's the thing, if I say it out loud, someone's going to hear it and hear themselves reflected back at them. Someone's going to hear that and think, oh, thank God it's not just me. Happy to be a mirror, folks. I hope that answers your question, Ryan. Of course, there are good days. I've seen lots of friends. We've seen lots of shows. We've had time to do all those things. We've had time to invite people over on a whim. Spend the afternoon just chatting up my friends. Having this freedom of schedule gives me the opportunity to just say, what are you doing tonight? Let's crack open that bottle of cider that we've been sitting on. And tomorrow, like, we're going to see our friends in Stratford and Shaw Festival. That wouldn't be possible without that freedom. So as much as I'm struggling mentally half the time, the other half of the time, I am so thankful for the freedom and thankful to be able to enjoy my space finally. I didn't get to do a lot of that when we first moved in. I've really been enjoying being able to sit on my couch and stare out the window, wash all the windows, because that takes hours, especially with the amount of windows we have. In the macro point of view, I'm really grateful for all the time. And then there are days where the micro just doesn't like to agree. Does that make sense? Anyway, I want to see what happens if I put midnight in the center. I'm so sorry, Ryan. I went on so many tangents. I truly do not know if that answered your question, but we're going to move on because it's getting late and the sun's going down and I still need to pack for my vacation. I've got a bunch of questions from Instagram stories. Thank you to everyone who sent those in. I really appreciate it. Let's do a couple of rapid fire questions. Tachi Panda asks, cinnamon buns, raisins or no raisins? Call me a heathen. I fucking love a raisin. I'm one of those people. I prefer oatmeal raisin cookies to chocolate chip cookies. Unfollow me now. I love a raisin in a baked good. Raisins also go so well with warm autumn spices, which are some of my favorite flavors in baked goods. Cinnamon and clove and cardamom, and raisins just fit so perfectly into there. They're just tiny little pockets of chewy goodness. And call me crazy, I prefer biting into that than biting into pure sugar. I'm sure that does put me on the sociopathic scale, but sorry, not sorry. Lauren asks a non-question. Lauren, that is not a question. High school best friend Lauren asks, is it tough being such a babe? Apparently so. Apparently many burdens come with being this good looking. Thank you, Lauren. That is very sweet of you to say. On top of all the things that I'm already struggling with mentally these days, I've also been struggling with self-esteem. Surprising absolutely nobody. I'm getting to the age where I'm really starting to notice the incremental changes. Like it kind of just hits you all of a sudden. You don't look the same, and you're going to continue to not look the same until you die. I understand why people fight aging. It's a really scary thing to watch. Watching your own face decay in real time. What a horrible thing. It is obviously a privilege to be able to age. And it's really hard. Oh, I have to just be okay with this. I have to be okay with becoming completely irrelevant and invisible. My 17-year-old niece must think I am the cringiest person on planet Earth. By a lot of young people's standards, I should just remove myself from the internet completely. Just wait. You'll realize too that there are other people on the internet besides your generation. But then I also see Gen X people on TikTok and I'm like, no, stop. What are you doing? That's a complete tangent that I need to just step away from. I think while I'm doing makeup, it's impossible for me to answer anything succinctly, so sorry. Spooky Mama Glam asks, dream place to travel to? I would love to visit my family in the UK. My dad's side of the family is from England. He was actually born there, and the last time I was there, I was 2 years old, so I don't even have any memories of it. I've actually missed out on the opportunity to spend time with certain people who still lived there, like my great uncle John. He died not too long ago. He was always very insistent that I come to England and spend time with him. I always wanted to do it, and then because of my life and how it is structured, I just never had the money when I had the time. And you always think you're going to, you always think you have the time, and then suddenly you don't. You forget that people aren't immortal. In the next year or two, I really have to push myself to actually get on a plane for 12 hours and travel overseas. Really gotta go. We only have so much time. We actually don't know how much time we have, so existential crisis. And while I'm there, I might as well just hop, skip, and jump my way to Europe somehow. Always wanted to go to Greece. And also, I've never had the all-inclusive experience of a vacation. My parents historically did not take me on any extravagant trips. I didn't get to Disney World until I was 30. Either I want to go on a cruise or work on a cruise. I would love to be a singer on a cruise ship. That would be fun. There's so much traveling I want to do because I have not had the opportunity to travel a lot in my life. Daniela asks, who's your favorite bear? Just wondering. Pretty sure Buddy asked that question, Daniela. You can't fool me. My answer being Buddy, of course, obviously. And there have been many influential bears in my life. Paddington Bear, Rupert Bear, Winnie the Pooh, to name a few. So Buddy, you are in good company, I'm just saying. I just love that there are several fictional bear icons from the UK. If I'm gonna feel patriotic about anything, it's that. Buddy spent a lot of time with us on Guys and Dolls. He hung out in the dressing room quite often. I mean, when he had the time, he has 17 different jobs. My love of bears started very young. I believe it was Paul Adshead who wrote a children's book called A Hug of Bears. Bears. And it is basically a catalog of some of the most famous bears in history. Real bears, real stories. The fact that that still has like room in my brain somewhere just tells you how like significant an impact it had. I'm actually going to take Cathedral Shadows and just wiggle that into the lash line as well in lieu of eyeliner, because I honestly can't be bothered. It is 7:30 now. Oh, this is a really nice question. Ready for Trip asks, how's your mom? Aww. Does she miss you coming over to film? Wow, what a lovely question from someone who clearly has been here for quite some time. For those of you who are just joining me now, my old filming studio during the pandemic was actually in my mom's condo. She had a second bedroom that I once used to live in for 2 years when I started college, but she very generously for a number of years let me transform the space into a filming setup. Not dissimilar to the studio that I'm filming in now, which is in my home. But yes, during the pandemic, it was kind of a project of ours to create the space, and during the pandemic, it was actually kind of a treat to have her as part of my bubble and be able to see her, you know, 3 times a week and work in that space. And then when she would come home from work, we would hang out and touch base and have a beer and talk about stuff. It was great. And yeah, ever since I moved studios and she got her space back, we don't see each other as much. And that is also a product of just going back to work and also navigating all of these life changes. And yeah, I do miss the frequency of being able to see her at the drop of a hat, just, you know, whenever I felt like it. It was really nice. So these days I am making a concerted effort to see my parents as much as humanly possible. I'm going to take a little bit of Nightshade from Melt just on my finger and just pop that in the center, just as a little base for some shimmer. Steph Barclay asks, what was your I want to be an actor moment and what's been the hardest role and why? We kind of already covered this actually. My I want to be an actor moment really was the Vancouver Opera Children's Chorus. I definitely caught the bug. What's been the hardest role and why? Roles can be challenging for very different reasons. Like there's challenging in good ways and challenging in challenging ways. I really enjoy being challenged as far as like text goes and character goes. There's also challenging in the way of maybe a script not being very good. I did this two-hander. It was a straight play. It was me and one other actor, and the whole show was just us and our relationship. And it was a contemporary show written by a local guy. And sometimes I wonder if this writer has ever been in a relationship with a real life human woman, because she was basically written to be a manic pixie dream girl. This character's entire purpose for existing in this man's world was to be the fun, quirky, cool, edgy love interest. And that is challenging in a very different way. Forcing myself to care about this character and their journey was hard. She lacked a lot of substance, and clearly she was there only to serve this guy's narrative. Apart from like dressing cool and having a goth phase, like she didn't really have a whole lot of substance. She was just kind of there. And then she got cancer and died. Luckily, the person I was playing opposite was an incredible actor and also a really nice person. And the silver lining to the entire experience was that the team itself, product notwithstanding, were great. I loved that team. We had such a fun time. Like we would always like gas ourselves up before the show being like, yeah, we know this is a piece of shit, but we're gonna have fun doing it. We're gonna do it the best way we can. Definitely wasn't trauma bonding, I would say. I've done shows that were definitely trauma bonding. That was the most challenging role because I kind of had to make something out of nothing. I'm sure the writer would disagree with me wholeheartedly, but of course he would. The writer is a man. Hopefully that answers that question. Because it was so stunning in this watch, I'm gonna go back into Night Watcher. Oh yeah. Ooh, a little bit goes a long way, folks. Oops, I basically just covered over everything else. I've refrained from gushing about Unearthly Cosmetics this entire video. So let me say it now. Dear God, how do you do it every single time? Look at that. That's crazy. The way it's 8 o'clock and I have not packed for this trip yet. We're living on the edge today, folks. Okay, let's tap into Awaken and see what, oh yeah. This is such a perfect, like, spooky goth palette. Oh, there's nothing like something sparkly to just make me a nicer human being. Just lay down a little bit more of that black. Actually, what would happen if I popped some of that Awaken on the center of the lid? Not much, but not gonna hurt it. Let me pop out some lashes, double check to see if there's any late additions to the questions, and we'll be right back. Well, I certainly didn't mean for this to turn out almost identical to the Melt and Bailey Sarian collab video. I cannot believe that this is a lash that I would normally throw on because these are insane. These are blown away by Boldface. I love Boldface lashes. We're definitely in the home stretch, fellas. Any hopes I had of sleeping tonight before the flight? You know you've been filming for too long when those hit the 6-hour time limit. Just to finish everything off, let's quickly throw on a lip. So I'm ending the Q&A on a bit of an odd note. I saved this question for last purely because there is really no straightforward answer. My English bestie and longtime subscriber, Andrew, asks, what are your go-to vocal warm-ups? And is there any part of your voice that you would like to work on more? What I would like to work on more, the limit does not exist. Honestly, I feel like my voice has only broadened in its range the older I get. Since we're nearly already in the same place we got to with the Bailey Sarian collab, let's just go in with their lip collab as well. This is Weeping Fig. I'm gonna use this as kind of a ad hoc lip liner. If I'm being honest, which the theme of this video today is honesty. Brutal honesty. I was always one of those singers who used the first song in the show as a warm-up. It's not good. For anyone who knows me or has worked with me, the reputation I have is vocal cords of steel. I have tested this in recent years. There are certain shows that I still operate like that, shows that aren't as vocally taxing. I will often forego a vocal warm-up for a little extra makeup time. I'm not endorsing this method. It is not something that I recommend, but a show like Little Shop, where I had to sing at the top of my range in a belt mix for the majority of the show, I definitely took the time out of my pre-show routine to do a pretty comprehensive vocal warm-up. I did not continue post-graduation with any sort of regular vocal lessons. I attribute a lot of what I've learned vocally just through experience and trying new things, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. When I'm feeling really challenged by something and I can't find my own way around my own voice, I will then go in for a coaching. I did that for a recent audition. And just that one coaching alone, this teacher I have, if you know anything about vocal technique, he uses Estil as a bit of a jumping off point or a platform with which to build off of. And even he says, you know, the best way to warm up your voice is to just start singing the thing that you need to sing. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna like get on camera and start demonstrating my lip trills and my scales and whatnot, because you know it's usually just a variation on a theme. Between sliding, scales, sirens, lip trills, exercises to work out your tongue, to relieve tongue tension. I tried to warm up my head voice as much as I would warm up my mix and my belt range. Warming up all of it can sometimes open up certain places. There's a lot of voice science here that I have no business speaking on. A lot of what I do vocally is based truly on trial and error and pure instinct. So honestly, I feel like a lot of the time, and this might be some imposter syndrome bleeding into this, but I do not think I'm the person to ask about vocal technique, having a lack thereof myself, or at least a lack of knowledge of my own vocal techniques. Like I couldn't verbalize what I do very well, but just for fun, I'll link the video that I often use because it's indelibly stamped into my brain after hearing it every other night through the walls at Theater Under the Stars when all the children were being forced to do a vocal warm-up before every show. There's this one YouTube channel that does these very rudimentary vocal warm-up videos, and honestly, they're great for when you're in a bit of a rush and you have like 5 minutes before you have to hop in the car and rush to the theater. And yeah, the exercises are pretty hokey, but any warm-up is a good warm-up, as long as you're being mindful, you know? As far as expanding my range, I'm always trying to expand my range. I'm constantly in pursuit of a higher top note, better dexterity between my registers, playing with a lot of that, seeing like, what can I do with my voice? Like, what is it capable of? It's just been kind of fun to like play and explore. And so I think I will never stop doing that, and I will never stop trying to achieve something better. Just to give Unearthly a little bit more screen time, this is Glint from their lip gloss collection. I think it's time to finally spray her down. Also, I saw someone do this recently in a video where they kind of painted in a bunch of their spots, and I used to do this all the time. All right, I'm gonna call that a night. It is 8:36, and we started this process at, was it 2:30? I mean, it's never gonna be under 6 hours. I just should know this by now. That is a wrap, folks, on this very long-winded and messy Q&A. Getting this out of the way, the Gargoyle palette is so fun to play with. It is perfect for the coming months. Lots of cool tones, lots of deep bruisey shades, really moody, be definitely a departure from what you'd normally see in the autumn months. You typically see a warm neutral palette being launched in September, October. Unearthly Cosmetics just marches to the beat of their own drum. They'll just kind of go wherever the wind takes them and follow their hearts, and I love that about them. This is such a nice alternative to your usual Christian girl autumn palette. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. I hope you are too. I don't want to talk too much more in this outro because I spent the last 7 hours straight talking to you all. Covered a lot of ground, went on lots of tangents, but ultimately answered each and every single one of your questions. So once again, thank you for sending in those questions, each of them very thoughtful in their own special way. And I really appreciate you all taking the time out of your schedules to even ask something of me. So thank you. As I said in the last video, we started a hashtag called Motivated by Madelaide. If you ever feel like recreating one of my looks or just getting inspiration for one of my looks, please use the hashtag and tag me in the post, or just send me a DM if you don't feel like posting it publicly. At the time of filming, no recreations to share with you today, but if you do use the hashtag and you feel so inclined, I would love to feature your recreation on the next video. So hopefully this inspires you to dust off those makeup brushes and try and get creative. I don't know how long this video is going to be, so if you made it to the end, you're a real one. Thank you for listening to me sit here and ramble. So please let me know down below if you enjoyed the Q&A. If you want to elaborate more on anything, please leave it in the comments below. I love answering all of your comments. With that, I'm going to take my empty mug and finally start to pack because we leave in 6 hours. So I'm going to love you and leave you, but before I do, please let me rattle off the spiel to you. Here are the many ways you can help out my channel. You can give this video a big thumbs up. You can comment down below what you thought of everything. You can subscribe. Any and all engagement with this video is crucial to its success in the algorithm. So if you have a few spare seconds, please engage with this video. You can follow me on Instagram. I will leave that right there. And take it easy on yourself today. If you're like me and you are feeling burnt out, don't feel guilty for resting. You deserve it. With that, folks, please stay safe, wash your hands, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!